So we got a big week. Our 2026 Cascadias are hitting the road. In today's video, I'm gonna give you the 6 reasons of why we choose these Cascadias, and I ain't gonna sugarcoat you. I'll tell you the way it is. So first of all, we're gonna talk about fuel efficiency. Second thing we're gonna talk about is the total cost of ownership. Third thing we're gonna talk about is the availability and uptime support. The fourth thing we'll talk about is the advanced safety and telematics. Fifth thing we'll talk about is driver comfort and retention. And the sixth thing we're gonna talk about is customization and fleet integration. So let's get to it. So you guys remember when I did this video with the 2025. So today when I'm doing the 2026, I really want to take you to my computer and show you the fuel efficiency of my 2025 models, so you guys understand why we go with these Cascadias, and in particular, why we go with this model and why we go with that carrier APU unit. There are a lot of money pits in our industry, and if you're going with flat nose trucks, and if you're going with a truck that's not fuel efficient, that's not aerodynamics, that is a money pit. Our second biggest expense after driver pay is fuel. So if you don't have your fuel consumption under a microscope, you're most likely putting a lot of money there on the table. All right, so here we are on the computer. I'm gonna pull out the stats of the 2025 Freightliner Cascadias. As you can see here, I pulled every single one of them up. Now in 2025, we started putting all of the Cascadias have a diesel APU unit. We stopped with the battery pack APU units. And the reason for that is because of the Green Freight program. Now, if ever any of you need help setting this up or putting it together, basically the Green Freight program, Canadian government is giving out up to $10,000 for each one of these APU units, up to 50% and a maximum of $10,000 per unit, up to a maximum of $250,000 per year. So we took advantage of that, and we actually got our funding from the Green Freight program. So if any of you out there need help putting it together, feel free to reach out to me. Now back to these stats. So here are the 2025 Freightliner Cascadias, and you can see I basically put them from the most fuel efficient to the least fuel efficient, the fuel used, the distance traveled. We have over here the idling time, but you can see here the most important thing is the fuel efficiency. So the most fuel efficient Cascadia I have right now is running at 8.3 miles per gallon over the course of, so for all of May we have at the most fuel efficient is 8.2, the least fuel efficient is 7.3 miles per gallon. And you can see the idling time is basically down to a minimum. So I would have to say that 2025 is a successful year for fuel efficiency. For us, anything above 7.5 miles per gallon is considered fuel efficient. Now you can see here, if I take the last 30 days, you can see the distance that these are traveling. So we got 13,000 miles, 12,000 miles, 12, 12, 12, 11, 10, 10, and 9. That's the mileages that our 2025 Cascadias they drive. And then you can see here with the idle time, anything under, I would say 5% is considered good. The ones that are 5.7 and 6.8, it's a little bit high for the diesel APU units. They should not be idling so much, but you can see overall that these trucks are fuel efficient. Anything over 7.5 miles per gallon is considered good for us in our fleet. We have a couple here that at 7.4 miles per gallon, but everybody else is above 7.7 and then up to 8.3 miles per gallon. For any of you guys that took my dispatch course or are thinking of taking the dispatch course, you need to look at this chart, okay? Now this chart basically tells you the cost per gallon on the left-hand side, and then you have the miles per gallon up on the top right. So currently the national average, oh wow, this chart was done about 2 years ago. Today the national average is well below $3.75 per gallon, but let's say the national average was $3.75 per gallon. And my trucks are running anywhere between 8 to 8.5 miles per gallon. Now, if you take 8 miles per gallon, then my drivers are running at 47 cents per mile is what it costs me for fuel. And then the ones that are running at 8.5 miles per gallon are running at 44 cents per mile. That's the cost of a mile. Now we go into this in detail in our dispatch course. For those of you that are interested, highly recommend our dispatch course for anyone that wants to become a dispatcher or anybody who wants to start dispatching themselves or become an owner operator for themselves. The fuel consumption is our second biggest expense, and you need to look at this and zero in on it. So just to recap this, I mean, it costs us, right now the national average is probably $3.50, so it probably costs us about 42 cents per mile is what it costs us as a fleet to run these trucks. Now, if you have a flat nose truck or a truck that's not as fuel efficient, you can see that it would cost you probably around 58 cents or 63 cents to run 1 mile. Now, when you're running 12,000 miles, 15,000 miles, when you have multiple trucks running at 6.5 miles per gallon versus 8 and 8.5 miles per gallon, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars in savings just in fuel alone. But going back to these brand new Cascadias or these one-year-old Cascadias, hopefully these 2026s will be able to perform better than the 2025s. But you can see here the 2025s, they've been on the road for a full year. They have the diesel APU units, and you can see how much they're running at: 8.3, 8.2, 8.2, 8 miles per gallon. Our lowest one is 7.4, which means we are saving a lot of money on fuel when you take these trucks and compare them to the older units. All right, the second thing we're going to talk about is the total cost of ownership. At the end of the day, we're not just looking for driver comfort, we're also looking at dollars in and dollars out. And that's why these Cascadias, they make sense for us. There's more than just fuel consumption that you're going to look over the course of 5 or 6 years. You definitely want to zoom in on your maintenance costs. And when you're starting to zoom in on that, you're going to look at your intervals. You're going to look at parts. You're going to look at reliability. You're going to look at how easy it is for you to change parts in these Cascadias. So the one thing I've learned that with our shop, we're definitely able to store a lot of the parts and components of these Cascadias. As a fleet owner, one of the things that really disturbs me or gets my heart racing is that if I hear that a truck broke down in the US, and when I hear that it's a different make or model, my heart starts racing, okay? Because you don't know when that truck is gonna be up and running. You don't know how long it's gonna take for you to get the parts. You're gonna put your driver in a hotel for a day or two until you get him back. You're gonna have to fly him in, fly him out. You know, with these Freightliners, I mean, they're really in and out of the shop, honestly, within 48 hours, because you know that the parts are readily available. Now, the cost of parts. I've done a few videos on comparing the cost of same parts in different trucks, and I can assure you that these Freightliners, the parts are definitely cheaper than parts in other trucks. You know, I mean, let's talk about our shop. I mean, these things are in and out of here within hours. And then the next thing we're going to talk about is the resale value. We run these trucks for about 400,000 to 500,000 miles before we flip them. We usually give our lease operators, or we give our company drivers, the ability to buy these trucks under our lease purchase program. Now, if you think about it, getting a truck with 400,000 miles that still has warranty left on it, that still has, you know, a good 2 years of warranty left on it, the drivers love it because they know exactly what it is that they're getting. Usually they drive the truck before they get it, but the resale value of these trucks, whether you're selling it to one of your own drivers or you're selling it to the market, you know, these are probably the most popular trucks out there. So when you are selling, you know, a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old truck, it's very easy to move them. Yes, obviously you have your highs and your lows, and the market dictates, you know, whether you're going to get $60,000 for them or $50,000 for them after the 4 years or 4.5 years. But you know what? They're really easy to move. You don't get stuck with them. They're not parked for 2, 3, 4 months, and you're not giving big discounts. They're usually, you know, when we post them up for sale, like we are right now, our 2021s and our 2022s are going up for sale right now, and it's very easy to move them. Now, as a fleet owner or as an owner operator, I mean, that is very important for you. The last thing you want is when you're done with the truck, all of a sudden you're trading it in and you're getting, you know, cents on the dollar, or you're really not getting a lot for it. It does retain its value, and that's very important to us as a fleet owner. All right, so next thing we'll talk about is driver comfort. So whenever, you know, our fleet, whenever we get new trucks, usually we get a lot of emails coming in asking, requesting, you know, the drivers with the 2021s, the 2020s, or even the 2019s, when we do have drivers in them, we usually swap them out into newer trucks, and then the new recruits usually go into the older units. So, you know, when a driver's working here for 8, 9 months, 10, once they pass that 1-year mark, that's when we'll put them, once we have the analytics on them, are they a good driver? Are they efficient? You know, how many miles they produce in 1 month? You know, over the course of the 12 months, that's how we know whether to upgrade, you know, and give one of our drivers a newer truck. But usually we get a lot of requests when we get the 10-15, a package of 10 or a package of 15 brand new Cascadias. We usually get a lot of requests, and we look at the driver stats. We have report cards for each driver, and the driver stats will dictate who's going to get the new truck and who's going to stay in their older truck. Now, when we go into these Freightliners, these brand new Freightliners, the comfort, you know, is definitely there. They've pretty much thought about everything. They've thought about, you know, the driver when he's sitting, when he's sleeping, when he's eating. I mean, they've thought about everything. And usually when a driver gets a brand new unit, I mean, we usually don't hear anything from them for about 2 or 3 years. You know, our really good drivers, we'll definitely flip them probably every 24 to 36 months. We'll flip them into a brand new unit. When we have drivers that are on the road for long periods of time, like a month and a half, we usually give them the trucks with the diesel APU unit, the carrier APU units. The drivers that need to be home and reset every week, those are the drivers that get the battery pack APU units, okay? But yeah, let's go inside and let's have a look. All right, so first of all, I love the smell of a brand new Cascadia. It's a lot like, you know, when you're getting into a brand new car, there's a special smell to it and I love it. Let's have a look at this, you know, digital dash. That's something that we've upgraded last year. Why is this? Ooh. All right, just started the unit. You can see here the digital dash. Ooh, that's a lot of noise. How do I turn this down? I wish I knew what I was doing, but I don't. You know, you can see here that there's not much upgrades from last year to this year, from the 2025 model. Now, these are the 2026 models, but we do have our digital dash. You know, it looks pretty nice, sleek, clean look over here for a driver. What I do like is the fact that there is the USB connectors over here, which is great. We have a USB outlet, so there's definitely a lot of outlets here to connect, whether it's a laptop, your, you know, whatever devices you have that you need to connect. But you know, I see 4 of them over here right to my right hand side. There's 3 coffee mugs. That would be important to me. But yeah, I mean, this looks great. It looks clean. You know, everything is brand new over here, so you know, what could be better? So driver comfort, I think they've really invested a lot into driver comfort. Definitely a lot of outlets everywhere, so we upgrade ours. We get a few more extra outlets. Fridge wise, so for the driver, where's our fridge? So this is our fridge. You know, definitely very, very comfortable. They've thought about pretty much everything. So we have our mats over here. We have a second bed over there. We do have a ladder over here. Driver that is going to get into this, the mattress is going to be opened up for him. And yeah, what's better than getting a brand new unit? So the last thing, oh, perfect, it's automatic. So I don't know if you got that on video. So it shut down automatically. So after 5 minutes of this thing running, it'll shut down automatically, and then the diesel APU unit is going to kick in, keeping the temperature the same inside this truck. You know, as a fleet owner or as an owner operator, I mean, not only are you looking at fuel consumption, but you're also looking at driver retention. And I have to say that with these Cascadias, you know, drivers want, I would say, one of 3 things that they want. Number 1 is they want a reliable truck. Number 2, they want their paycheck on time. And number 3, they want the miles. If you can give them all 3 things, you know, reliability in a truck, I have to say, you know, by far, that's the reason that we go with them, the most reliable product out there for us as a fleet. Driver wants mileage. The driver wants a reliable truck. The last thing that he wants, most drivers out there, they get paid per mile. You want your tool to be able to produce the miles. The last thing you want is to be constantly in the shop. I really have to talk about the warranty that these things come with. For us as a fleet owner, I have to say that by far, you know, Freightliner has the best warranty out there for us as a fleet. We don't have problems. You know, we get the 600,000 miles. I think it's the level 4 package, and pretty much it's almost like bumper to bumper up to 600,000 miles. Now, I have to say that even when our truck has 605, 610,000 miles, Freightliner will honor the warranty and still do it even when it's, you know, just a little bit out of warranty, and I love that about them. The next thing is you're not constantly battling. So when we had our other trucks, I felt like we constantly had to fight the warranty. It's like with other brands and makes, their first line of defense was no, it's not covered under warranty, and you kind of had to convince them why it was under warranty. You know, it wasn't as easy as it is with Freightliner. With Freightliner, it's like, oh, you know, this part is under warranty, that part's under warranty, everything is under warranty, so they will automatically cover it under warranty, and even the downtime is fairly quickly, which I cannot say the same thing about other OEMs and other trucks. For us as a fleet, I mean, when our fleet manager contacts Freightliner or our sales rep where we buy the trucks, when we contact them, we know that we have our shop over here. Our shop, if it's under warranty, right away it'll get pushed out to them, and they have 24-48 hours. They're usually pretty quick in the turnover. I mean, as fleet owners, I mean, we spend, you know, close to $10,000 $1,000 on these warranties. And the last thing you want is that, you know, the warranty doesn't cover something. And what's the point of having a warranty? Even it has happened that even within, you know, our first year or our first 6 months, something happened. Even I think towing, a portion of the towing is also covered with the warranty that we get, which is great. You know, for us fleet owners, sure, we definitely want that privilege. Last year when I did this video, I had one of our drivers that was about to go into a brand new unit. And I have to say that, you know, it's been a year. I did follow up with him 3 months later, 6 months later. I didn't do it on the video, but I mean, there's nothing but good things to say about the Freightliners. I mean, yeah, some people call them, you know, freight shakers, or, you know, I don't see it. And we are going to get Alex to talk about the check engine lights and comments on the EGR cooler, EGR valves. I mean, I've mentioned this year over year that we don't have those problems. Once you eliminate the idling in these trucks, I'm telling you, it'll eliminate also, I would say 75% of the problems that some people are facing. When you're constantly idling these trucks, so you're driving for 10, 11, 12 hours, and then you're idling it for another 10 hours, that's when you might start getting into the problems of the EGR cooler, EGR valve, and anything that has to do with check engine lights. But we just don't see it in our fleet, and I'm definitely going to get Alex to do a complete video on that. You know, a lot of comments out there about that. We've had them at least for probably 15 years now. You know, we started off with a different make and model, but we converted 100% to the Cascadias. For us, by far the most reliable, for us by far the most easiest to work with. The way that we got to that is not when everything is beautiful, not when everything is nice and dandy, not when everything is good. It's actually when you have problems, you actually see the real face of these OEMs. So when something happens, or, you know, what happens if in the first year, you know, the head gasket or, you know, something happens to the engine, you really see these OEMs, like, you know, how quick they're on it, you know, how quick do they approve it, how quickly are the truck gets up and running when something does go wrong. And for us, I mean, we've tested it over and over again, and by far the best company for us to work with. So I'm sure we all can agree that times are very tough, and making a profit in this business is getting harder and harder. So as fleet owners, we look at the downtime, we look at how much money we spend in maintenance costs, and we look at fuel consumption. And with this truck right here, I have to say it kind of checks off all three boxes. I don't know how people run their flat nose trucks. I have absolutely no clue how they're still in the game right now. Maybe they're doing something that we're not, but I have to say that, you know, aerodynamics is the way to go. Fuel consumption is definitely the way to go, and a truck that's going to be reliable is definitely the way to go. It's been tested through our fleet that these are reliable trucks for us, and that's why we continue to buy them. I love doing this every single year. I really wish that they come up with a lot more upgrades that I can talk about, and yeah, I will definitely be doing this every single year because we purchase them every single year. Now, I know a lot of you want me to talk about how we spec these trucks. Honestly, it's not my forte, but I will get Alex, our Red Seal mechanic, to do a full video on our specs and how we spec out these trucks and how we get the best fuel consumption for our fleet and the way that we run them. So hopefully you learned something from this video. Make sure you stay tuned for more exciting videos. I'm Ronen, and I'll catch you in my next video.